Hello everyone, welcome back to another one of our Zentangle Project Pack series. My name is Molly.
Hi, I'm Martha.
So when Martha and I were trying to figure out what we wanted to do for our class, we started to just play with letters as strings, and how could you play with a letter being a string? So I'm going to show you this tile right here. Sorry to leave you with the blank screen there for a minute. And this tile is, you might see something written there or maybe not. But what Martha and I decided to explore was something we're calling lost Entanglation.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's gonna be great.
What we did here in this tile is we wrote the word family, and I don't know if you can see it now that I've said it. We decided to sort of explore one tangle per letter and sort of let that one tangle define that one letter. So whether or not the letter pops out right at you or not, it sort of is almost like this hidden message and kind of speaking in tangles. So for this particular message, we have the F being the poke leaf. We have the A, which is a little hidden here with the triple E, and the M with the static. I, X kind of pops out at you. The L is very subtle. It's this falls into the jongle, which is like, that's my favorite part, but I also love jongle. And then the Y over here in this is just a way to sort of use these letters or a word as a string and then play
And
around.
a hidden language. It's a hidden language.
Yeah, so we're going to bring some of these down, show you. So here's a couple
some letters.
of letters here.
Some are obvious, some might be a little bit more hidden. But you get the idea. And it's actually something that just makes, I couldn't stop thinking about this at night,
so fun,
like how
right?
could I do, G or K or whatever.
Each person can come up with their own tangled alphabet, of course, and these are just, that Y goes the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so much fun, right?
Yeah, and feel free to pause the video and check these out again. And we'll put a photo at the end. Yeah, I was telling Martha, I kind of am in love with these really, graphic ones. And then putting them next to these more kind of textured ones is really fun. Super fun. So we tried to play with as many tangles as possible. What we were thinking, one tangled alphabet could have, H as Icanthus, but then you could go back and do H as a totally different tangle. Right. So those are our alphabets, which is really fun, and we can explore that so much. I think that's going to be a really fun one.
We're working on one of the tiles that came in the project pack. It's a white Phi Tile. So I have just my handy-dandy graphite pencil, and I'm not going to do a border on this tile because we really do want to work with these letters and how they play with each other, and we want them to have freedom to go where they need to.
Very basic capital letters, nothing fancy here. These are your very basic capitals.
Yes. And so again, we're not drawing the letters in pen. We are drawing them in pencil as if they are our string.
And they disappear, right?
And they will disappear, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to draw. Get that, Molly? We are going to use the word draw.
Beautiful. Love it.
I'm going to start us off with the letter D, and I am going to be using the brown 01 pen. I'm going to do the tangle Vertigo. So I am just going to be using this pencil line as my guide, and I'm going to start with my beautiful needle shapes along, and you can follow along with me, but we're using this simple basic stroke that is a line and then an aura that meets at the top and the bottom. And what I'm going to do is follow along here as if it's my stem. And I like to go sort of this way and that with my Vertigo, placing them at random angles. Because once we start filling in, it's these angles that will allow us to layer and give that real beautiful full foliage look. Now I've just used that sort of hollabah method of drawing behind. I just drew that little needle, right behind. And I'm going to continue to find these opportunities to layer as I go. You'll notice that I turn my tile just about each time I draw one of these needles. And that sort of helps me realign, or gives me that perspective of where I can put something behind. It seems there's always an opportunity for one more needle.
Yeah, it is fun how it takes the shape of the letter, but also sort of hides it. It's like camouflage, sort of, right?
I'm varying the length of my needles also. Again, just variety and angle, all a little bit different.
And as we were playing around with these whole alphabets, we did, different variations of different letters. And like we said, you don't have to be so perfect with the starting point, as long as you can, reference what it is yourself. Once you start covering it with tangles, it really just becomes a string, which is fun.
Think about the opportunity to send somebody a hidden message.
Ooh, I like that. Or even if you just wanted to send a gift to one person, put on a bigger tile and maybe the first letter of their first name or something, that would be fun.
So as I've come around, I can see now where I want to fill in a little bit more. So I'm just adding just a last few needles where I see some empty spaces, some sparseness, because I like a full letter D here. Again, everybody has their own style with each tangle. And I'm going to hand it over to Molly in a minute, but I kind of like how this natural redefining the line here makes these tips a little darker. I'm just emphasizing that a little. There. All right, our first letter is done. All right, nice work, Martha. So I'm going to start my R here, and I am going to do a tangle called Muka. I'm going to use this sepia colored pen. We talked about it earlier. It's very dark and almost like dark chocolate is what it is.
I was just thinking chocolate.
I am going to do a basic Muka here on the back just to show you what the shape is like. And what I love about Muka is that everybody kind of does it a little different. So some people like to have a big, bulbous end to theirs, and some people is a little bit smaller, but that's okay. When I draw my Muka, I kind of draw a stem, and then I come around as if I'm going to draw a circle. And then when I'm about to come, I come back up and down, something like that. But you could do it a little less, like something like that, or something like that. But basically it's a stem with sort of this almost like a paisley type thing on the end. So I'm going to fill my R with Mukas. I'm going to follow the first line of this R, and I'm going to draw a Muka right up here and then create. And I'm going to leave the bottom open because I think I'm going to come back to that. And then I'm going to continue to draw some all along this R, kind of curling around. Almost like a little wreath here.
think I'm going to turn my tile upside down here, and I'm going to go back and finish this first stem here. And I don't know how, maybe I'll go a little bit into here just to be playful. Go behind some of that vertigo. What do you think, Martha?
Sneak on in.
Yep. Goes a little bit into that, but I think that's kind of
Well, I think Muka is definitely can lend itself to be a very floral,
a little
tangle.
invasive, and
Yes.
so pretending that this goes down and something like that. As if this goes a little bit over here. There we go. So I think now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down this sepia color, and I'm going to pick up this orange color, and I'm going to add some more Muka around, but they're going to be kind of secondary to these.
Like Muka is definitely one of those strokes that didn't have a name until Zentangle came around, but it was something that Mom definitely used to accompany her lettering.
Oh my goodness, so much, right?
Early on, yeah.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to do a little, just some orbs in the middle here. Just kind of putting some orbs and then little dots in the middle of them. It's the idea of you can kind of go back and forth, figure out what works with your composition. Maybe another. It just seemed a little too plain, you know what I'm saying?
I actually love that outer layer.
All right, so I've just been having fun adding these little sort of orbs, filled in orbs, just to kind of blend it all. And I think I'll probably even come back to this after the other letters are complete. So I think I'm going to let myself stop and then move on and come back. But so far, so good. I'm loving this.
All right, well, just to shake things up a little bit, I'm actually going to guide you through the W. I'm going to skip over this A and have Molly come back to that a little bit later. I want a little bit of a more defined space for this, so I'm going to extend my string, my W string, so that it goes off the edge like that. And I'm going to do a tangle called Crazy Knightsbridge. We've kind of done that with a bunch of our tangles. We take this original tangle and we kind of make the lines a little bit unpredictable, and so we add the word crazy in front of it.
A little wonky.
Crazy Knightsbridge. And I'm not going to trace over this W line. I'm going to let that pencil line hopefully fade away with the process. But Knightsbridge in its original form is essentially a checkerboard. But for this, we're going to just do some sort of unpredictable, not necessarily parallel lines to create a bit of a wonky checkerboard. So I'm going to start out and move from left to right here within my string space. And I'm going to kind of have some crazy, not necessarily straight lines, but moving in one direction. Maybe one little on the tip. And then turn it. And I'm going to do them all in this direction now, but again, not necessarily a straight line. I think I'm going to start in the middle because those are the ones that make the most sense to me. And the idea is when you're looking to see which one comes next, especially with these irregular grids, and you want to fill in every other one, you just want to be filling in the ones where the corners touch or the corners kiss. So I know that these two corners are touching, so I know that I can fill in this space. This is definitely another one of those tangles that lets you just kind of really relax and enjoy watching that ink fall onto the paper. Actually, I want to do something a little playful in my grid. If you want to do it with me, you can, or you can keep all of yours, just the brown and white. But I am going to pick up my pink pen just for fun. And instead of brown, I'm going to use this pink pen to fill in just one of the squares, or you could do a couple of them. Just as a fun little pop. I love brown and pink together. That's one. So just one more little square here. Not really a square, is it at all?
Well, that's what happens when you get crazy.
Squarish. There. All right, I love this, Martha. I think that is very fun. I am going to work on this A here, and I am going to play with a tangle called Tripoli. I think I'll write that somewhere over here for you guys. So I'm going to start off my Tripoli with the lighter brown color here. And of course, anytime we're doing this, you can all explore different things that we're using. But Tripoli is a triangular tangle here. So I'm going to actually I think it's great that we see this kind of triangular shape in my A. So I'm going to actually just use that as a starting point. And I'm not going to go quite down to that crossbar. I'm going to go a little bit above it and make my first triangle there. And Tripoli is all about these sort of segmented triangles that have a little bit of space in between. And so I'm going to use this space here to create a second triangle like that. And the thing with Tripoli is you want to kind of keep an eye on that spacing and keep it kind of consistent. So I'm going to create another triangle here, and I'm playing around with this A shape here. So I'm kind of not going to go quite to the edge, and I'm going to create another triangle it's a little skinnier than we usually do it, but I'm trying to hold on to this A shape. So kind of going down right there. I'm trying to keep this like almost like a line here. Sort of filling that A space there. So I have my A, right? And I have my little spaces in between. And now I'm going to add some more Tripoli beyond, keeping this kind of spacing going. Kind of have it go behind our crazy. So I want to keep this space going here. Do another. Maybe try to fit one in here. Do it on this side. Always start with that connecting point. Again, kind of figuring out, a lot of times we'll say almost like you're auraing that first line to figure out where you're at. And this, our A has really disappeared at this point in time, but we're going to bring it back a little later with some shading and whatnot. So kind of turning your tile, looking at it this way and that, and deciding how you want your composition to grow. Okay, I'm going to do a pretty classic filler with my Tripoli here.
And you're using the same pen.
I'm using the same pen, and I'm just going to put 3 arcs inside each of these beautiful triangles. Taking your time, remembering to breathe. I'm going to pick up this pink pen, I think. We're just sort of playing with the palette here for fun, but you can pick a different color too. I'm going to smush an orb inside. And then sort of inking in the interstices. All right, just finishing up here. I think that's all of my orbs. This looks pretty fun as is, but what I really love to go back into my compositions and kind of like try to add that little oomph. I think what I'd like to do is add like a little muka to like tie this in. So I'm gonna maybe like a wandering muka or something.
Which
what do you
pen
think?
Are you using?
I got the dark, the chocolatey brown color, and I think I'm gonna try to make one coming a little bit off of this R, and playing around here with that little. Add some rounding here, I love rounding. And then I think I'm going to do another one over here too. What do you think?
Sure.
Yeah?
That muka likes to grow in.
So I'm kind of tracing over this little alleyway here first. And then it's almost like we say that sometimes it's like a little mortar.
Grout?
Grout, mortar and grout. I've been tiling lately. Kind of redefining some of this here. And I don't think you have to do it everywhere. If you just kind of do it in some places. So I'm now going to grab this pink pen and I'm going to go back into my letters here and I'm really loving these little orbs that Molly did around the R. They're sort of reminiscent of Bronx cheer a little bit. And I'm going to add them kind of sprinkled throughout my D, almost like a berry nestled into the vine. And they fit right in there. Filling in spaces. And you don't have to do this step, all of these. You can see how one could take this pretty far if you wanted to, so it's all up to you how much you want to add. And don't forget to turn your tile. You sort of see things, opportunities a little bit different. I could definitely get carried away here.
Oh, that ties it in. I like it with the pink next to the orange.
Yeah, me too. Molly and I had a plan when we sit down to do this tile with you, but of course things never are duplicated. So, we are reacting just like you are reacting.
That's what makes it fun. You kind of have a loose sort of idea, but then if you leave room for exploration, you often have such wonderful results.
All right.
Looks good.
All right, well, I'm going to add some shading and we can go back and forth a little bit. All right, so I'm going to pick up my pencil, and even though we didn't actually trace over that D with anything, you can see it in there, that original string, and I'm just going to add graphite along that string. Using the edge of my pencil. Using that kind of softer delivery, not the hard edge of the tip. I'm going along the outside of it, if you will. And then with the tortillon, just smoothing it into the needles. And then with this crazy Knightsbridge, I think what I'll do is, you can still see the rows of color here, and I'm going to add shading just to the top half of each row. So of course there's not a lot of shading going on that dark ink, but so that's the top half, and then the same here. Top half. So then just blending it in. Again, not really needing to go over the ink. And we always say that this is one way that we're shading this, but you might have a different, more amazing way to shade your piece. And I think I do want to add just a soft edge of graphite around here. And I'm going to leave this side where it touches the Tripoli, because I have a feeling maybe Tripoli is going to be coming under the Knightsbridge. All right, this is really coming together. I am going to just add some shading around this R. I think I'm gonna start on this side only. Just using that graphite pen, going right over the orange. And yeah, I think I'm gonna go all the way on the inside here. Shading is another part of the Zentangle method that's, so much room for exploration. So just because I'm doing it this one way doesn't mean that there isn't so many other ways to do it. And kind of work some of this with my tortillon at this point and see how things start to evolve. Kind of tones down that orange a little bit. As much as I loved it, I kind of want to integrate it into the rest of the dark chocolatey color a little bit. This kind of brings it together. And I'm going to choose not to shade the actual muka. Some people might want to, but I, for the most part, want to let them kind of pop. I'm going to extend this in here and kind of give it some presence. I think I want to make my A pop out a little bit, just a tiny bit. And so I'm going to just play around with shading some of this. I'm going to do it little by little to see what happens. Kind of playing with those alleyways here. And, you know, you can choose to play with that as much as you want. And I'm just doing it little by little, see what happens. So kind of pops out a little bit. That's kind of fun. And then just here in the other spaces, I'm kind of playing with these little interstices. No rules, no kind of rhyme or reason, just trying to add variation and interest. All right. I don't know, that's pretty fun.
It's really fun.
That is really fun. This is just the beginning of like all kinds of playful, wacky, fun Zentangle stuff we can do. So here's that other one we did earlier, our little family, which was fun. Here we have our draw. And yeah, this is good stuff.
I actually can't wait to see.
I can't wait to see what people are going to do with this.
Yeah,
It's
so
gonna be a
should
blast.
we make this a hashtag?
We should definitely share that hashtag, and I'm sure we'll have
Here, you can write it down.
some amazing adventures, and stay tuned for some bonus material from me and Martha for more adventures with Lost in Tangle A Shun. All right, my friends, and don't forget to have fun and draw.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.